President Trump is turning up the heat on Iran, threatening unprecedented bombing and fresh sanctions if Tehran refuses to strike a nuclear deal. The explosive remarks are President Trump's first ones since Iran rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. last week. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman has the latest.
Well, thank you, Shosh. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to attack Iran and implement additional economic sanctions on the country if Iran continues to refuse to negotiate toward a nuclear deal. Let's take a look. In an interview with NBC News, Trump said if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before. The comments mark a sharp escalation in rhetoric following Iran's recent rejection of direct talks with the U.S. Trump added that secondary tariffs could also be imposed, penalties targeting other nations that continue trading with Iran, similar to those that he used during his first term. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei responded on Monday saying that the U.S. would receive a strong blow if it acts on Trump's threat. At the same time, Iran responded through Oman, rejecting direct talks but saying indirect negotiations remain possible. Trump's threats come amid growing fears that Iran is rapidly advancing its nuclear capabilities. U.S. and Israeli officials warned Tehran may only be weeks away from producing a deliverable nuclear weapon, although Iran denies it is seeking such arms. Trump also took aim at Russia in the NBC interview, expressing frustration over President Vladimir Putin's refusal to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine and threatening new tariffs on Russian oil. Meanwhile, Axios reported that President Trump is planning a visit to Saudi Arabia. The trip, expected to be his first official foreign visit since returning to office, is aimed at finalizing a potential $1 trillion Saudi investment in the U.S., including major defense deals. While Trump previously hinted at expanding the Abraham Accords, Axios noted that the Saudi-Israeli normalization remains stalled over Riyadh's demand for Palestinian statehood, a condition Israel rejects. Israeli officials told Axios that no stop in Israel is currently planned as part of the trip.
In a gut-wrenching 60 Minutes interview, Yarden Bibas and other released hostages exposed the brutality they endured in captivity and made an urgent plea to bring the others home. It was the first time Bibas gave an interview to anyone and said he chose the American outlet so the White House would hear his message. ILTV's Ariella Lachiani has more.
In a heart-wrenching and powerful 60 Minutes interview, released Israeli hostage Yarden Bibas shared his story of unimaginable loss and unshakable hope. Held captive by Hamas, he learned on camera that his wife Shiri and their children, Ariel and Kfir, were brutally murdered, killed in cold blood by the terrorists who mocked their deaths.
They were murdered in cold blood, bare hands. They used to tell me, doesn't matter. You get a new wife, get a new kids, better wife, better kids.
They said that to you?
Yeah, many times. Many times.
His captors tormented him in tunnels beneath Gaza, subjecting him to relentless cruelty. Yet, amidst the terror, Yarden Bibas held on to unshakable hope, a belief that this nightmare could end and the hostages could come home.
If you could say something to President Trump, what would you say?
Please stop this war and help bring all the hostages back.
And you think he can help?
I know he can help. I'm here because of Trump. I'm here only because of him.
The interview also spotlighted Keith and Aviva Siegel, also captured on October 7th. Keith endured savage beatings, starvation, and witnessed unspeakable atrocities, sexual assaults and torture inflicted by Hamas. Aviva was held with him for 51 days before she was released in a deal, with Keith left behind facing even more cruelty.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so?
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me. I witnessed a young woman who was being tortured by the terrorists. I mean, literal, torture, not just in a figurative sense.
They made you watch it?
Yeah. I saw sexual assault with female hostages.
Their story, like Bibas's, is a chilling reminder of Hamas's barbarity and Israel's urgent fight for justice and survival. Released hostage Tal Shoam brought a glimmer of hope to the families of Eviatar David and Guy Gilboa Dalal, still trapped in Gaza. He spoke of their daily beatings, their cramped tunnels, and their fragile mental state, yet also their courage. From the ashes of tragedy, these survivors cry out for their brothers still in chains. Yarden Bibas' faith in President Trump and Israel's resolve shines as a beacon of hope. This is a fight not just for hostages, but for humanity itself, proof that even in darkness, Israel stands strong, unbroken, and unbowed. The full interview aired last night on CBS. For now, the world watches and prays for Israel's triumph.
Just heartbreaking listening to those testimonies. Thanks so much, Ariella. Now, the last time we saw any hostages come out of Hamas captivity was more than a month ago. It's been 542 days as Hamas uses these hostages as the only leverage they have left in this war. 59 innocent lives still in Hamas captivity, with 24 of them believed to be alive. Now, stalled negotiations are leading to increased military pressure as the days go on. Meanwhile, the families of hostages demand meetings with Israeli officials as their loved ones' conditions worsen every single day. Here's what you need to know. As Israel intensifies military pressure on Hamas inside of Gaza with what they say is a limited and precise ground offensive, Israel is now demanding Hamas to release 11 living hostages in response to Hamas's approval of an Egyptian proposal. On Saturday, Hamas expressed willingness to release 5 living hostages, with the release of 1 hostage every 10 days, in exchange for a 50-day ceasefire, a proposal put forward by Egypt. In response, Israel is demanding an increase in the number of living hostages to be 11, along with half the bodies of murdered hostages in captivity in a shorter timeline. Israel's counteroffer aligns with the original Witkoff framework and said if the proposal is accepted, it will enter negotiations for the second phase. Netanyahu says while military operations continue, they are negotiating with Hamas as they're under fire, but are pushing to reach agreements before Passover, although significant gaps remain. Ynet reports a senior official said negotiations are ongoing, even without delegations. There is continuous communication with mediators and the American government. Ron Dermer, Israel's chief hostage negotiator, argued Israel's military pressure is effective, stating that, quote, Hamas is starting to blink. The families of hostages wrote a letter to Dermer, demanding he, quote, pay attention to them and meet with them. 50 family members expressed their growing concern, anxiety, and fear with the stalled conversations. Israel is currently waiting for Hamas's response to their counterproposal, and Israel believes 24 hostages are still alive, including 1 American Israeli and a few foreign nationals. And the IDF just issued one of its largest evacuation warnings yet since fighting resumed in the Gaza Strip today, with thousands of people in Rafah leaving during the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Fitr. Joining us now to discuss is Dr. Eyal Pinko, an intelligence, cyber, and security expert. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Now, this morning, the IDF issued a massive evacuation order to all of Rafah, pretty much, with the IDF saying they will, quote, be returning to fighting with, quote, great force. We know the IDF included an area between Rafah and Khan Yunis, which is a location the IDF necessarily hasn't really operated in since the beginning of this war. What is the IDF working to achieve here?
Yeah, I think what we see that the IDF, while changing the commanding officer of the IDF, changed the strategy. And before that, with General Halevi time, it was some kind of riots and strategy. Go inside, make some small and shorter time operation going out. Now, from what we see now, the IDF operates totally different. And we see that the IDF is preparing to operate for a long and massive operation inside Gaza, which will be in the part of the northern Gaza, in separate, and the center of Gaza as well, in 2 separate lines that will divide it, the part that Hamas has more influence and the part that Hamas has less influence, in order to gain control of the territory.
How extensive do you think this ground operation will be? We know that we've been hearing some soldiers are being called up for the reserve duty here in Israel. How long do you think this ground operation will take? And should we expect more soldiers to be called up?
Yeah, look, Israel really wants that this operation will not take place. Israel wants the hostages, and this is the reason that there is, for the last month or so, there is a huge effort, first in the political arena, and secondly with other means of pressure. For example, disconnecting the electricity that Israel gives to Hamas, and not to send any more trucks with medical supplies, food and all, in order to create pressure on Hamas. Even though Israel is not sending them, Hamas has, for now, all the means to feed and to give the treatment to the population, and therefore Israel waits that this pressure, the energetic and all the other supply will work. And if this will not work, I believe that we will see that there is a massive Israeli military moves, as we saw in the past. No real delegation, no real negotiation is really helpful. The only thing that helped to save and to bring back the hostages were only massive military operations. And I believe that, once again, if the first phase that we are now into will not work, Israel will go to a massive military maneuver in the Gaza Strip.
Now, switching gears, we've seen unprecedented anti-Hamas protests take place in the Gaza Strip last week for 2 days in a row. The family of one 22-year-old man in Gaza said their son was murdered after participating in one of these protests. They say he was kidnapped, tortured, and his body was left in front of his family's home. Do you think these protests could continue sometime soon?
Look, I believe that Hamas is controlling everything in the Gaza Strip. So if there are demonstrations over there, I do believe that some of them were organized by Hamas to show the world, to show Israel, to show mainly to the U.S. That Hamas is trying to move to a better place. I believe that Hamas is very well in control in this territory. So it means that a real thing that will come from the population will not be. And we saw in many cases that voting and polls that are being made or being done in the Gaza Strip in the past, more than 87% of the Gaza population totally support Hamas.
Now, Israelis woke up this morning to watch the testimonies of these released hostages speaking in this 60-minute interview. Basically and realistically, how can Israel get these hostages out? Do you think it's possible that the IDF could try one of these daring rescue operations again to save their lives?
Look, I think that Hamas doesn't want to release the hostages. The strategy of Hamas is to take the time to make it as a gumi, and this is the playground of Hamas. This is the psychological warfare. This is the psychological terror that Hamas is imposing. As much people go to the streets in Israel protesting against the government, Hamas likes it very much. And this is Hamas' will.
We know Hamas uses these hostages as leverage in this war. Thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has appointed former Naval Chief Vice Admiral Eli Sharvit as the new head of the Shin Bet, a move that has stunned both the agency and the public. Due to a petition in the High Court of Justice, Sharvit's appointment will not take effect until at least April 8th, and it may even face further delays. Now, the surprise decision comes after a series of interviews with other candidates, none of whom were identified as Sharvit. Now, sources within the Shin Bet expressed shock, noting that the position has traditionally been filled by someone within the agency or IDF ground forces. Sharvit, who served as commander of the Israeli Navy from 2016 to 2021, is credited with strengthening Israel's maritime defense. His appointment follows recent tensions between Netanyahu and former Shin Bet head Ronen Bar, whose firing sparked mass protests in Israel. Netanyahu's office emphasized that Sharvit is the right person to lead the agency forward, though the High Court's upcoming ruling could still impact the move. Yad Ezra Vashulamit is stepping up to help feed more than 300,000 people in need this upcoming Passover holiday. Speaking with us now is Jamie Geller, a celebrity chef, to talk about the current situation in Israel as the war escalates and what people all over the world can do to help. Jamie, first of all, how does it feel to be in Israel right now with everything going on?
So it's definitely uncertain, unsettling times with the sirens blaring and us running back and forth into bomb shelters or taking cover on the side of the road. In many ways, it feels like we reverted back to a year ago. But at the same time, there is nowhere else that I would rather be. I feel so connected to the Jewish people, to our Holy Land, and we know that God is protecting us every moment of every day.
Now, there are people all over the world who want to feel connected to what is going on here. What can they do to help?
There are so many ways to help, especially with the orphans and the widows and the hungry here in Israel. Right now, we have seen businesses collapse, jobs lost, wives of reservists who have to leave their jobs so they can take care of their children single-handedly. And the worst part, more orphans and widows. There are so many more people living below the poverty line than ever before. And if you would see what I would see, young and old Holocaust survivors, as I said, widows, handicapped, asking for food, turning to Yad Ezra Vashulamit for food, you would not be able to turn them away the same way that we wouldn't. If someone would knock on your door this holiday and asking just for matzah for the Seder, you would willingly give it. So there's a famous line in the Passover Seder, let all who are hungry come and eat. Let's take that line very seriously and make sure that we feed all who are hungry this Passover holiday.
Yeah, so Jamie, how many baskets are actually needed?
Over 60,000 requests have come in for food baskets. My heart is just breaking to see those who are hungry. We're talking about widows, orphans, old Holocaust survivors, reservists' wives who are parenting alone, the handicapped. If you would see what I see, your heart would just break. There's no way that you could say no. So we are looking for 60,000 food baskets this holiday. We will distribute them across 93 distribution centers across the entire country, and that will feed 300,000 people.
And how can our viewers watching right now help out?
First of all, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much to the viewers. It's super duper easy. Just scan the code on your screen. Please consider donating a food basket so everyone can celebrate this holiday in Israel with dignity.
Jamie Geller, thank you so much for joining us today and this incredible opportunity that you're giving to so many people.
Happy Passover. Thank you.
And Israeli teams are on the ground in Thailand and Myanmar, racing to save lives after one of the region's deadliest earthquakes in a century. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Israeli emergency response teams have been deployed to Thailand and Myanmar following Friday's devastating 7.7 magnitude earthquake in central Myanmar. The quake and its 6.7 aftershock have killed at least 1,700 people in Myanmar, 17 in Thailand, and injured over 3,500 others. Hundreds remain missing as search and rescue efforts continue. In Bangkok, Israeli defense experts from the IDF's Homefront Command are assisting Thai authorities at the site of a collapsed 33-story building. A small team from Israel's Tech was the first to arrive on Sunday night. Using their advanced technology, rescuers located and saved a survivor trapped 5 meters beneath the rubble, marking the first international rescue at the site. The Xavier system developed in Israel can detect life signs through walls and has been used in past disasters, such as in Turkey and Mexico. Moreover, the Israel humanitarian NGO also sent an emergency team to the region. Their initial focus includes safe water, sanitation, and hygiene, with plans to expand support based on local needs. This marks Israel's third mission to Myanmar, following cyclone and flood responses in previous years. Israel's Michal Bar said in a statement, "Our hearts are with those affected. We are committed to supporting vulnerable communities throughout recovery, however long it takes."
As the world changes, teachers are adjusting in effective ways. At Afeka Academic College of Engineering in Tel Aviv, a transformation from knowledge-based to competency-based education has led to innovative pedagogy that is transforming engineering education by equipping students with the real-world skills needed to thrive in Israel's high-tech industry. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Pedagogy is more than delivering content. It's about how we engage students in the learning process. In today's rapidly evolving world, education must be flexible, inclusive, and hands-on. Traditional methods no longer meet the diverse needs of learners, nor do they prepare students for the real-world challenges they'll face.
We know that there's a disparate way of learning throughout our world for all kinds of good reasons, and that our children and our students of all ages present with different issues as well as different characteristics. So having the ability to have more than just old yellow pad and the lecturing that goes on is really critical.
When students learn by doing, applying theory in real time, their understanding deepens. This experiential approach is especially vital in higher education, where students must graduate with skills they can use immediately.
Innovative pedagogy has to respond to what the employers are seeing as competencies as well, that they're going to need when that student and that young adult reaches them.
At Afeka Academic College of Engineering in Tel Aviv, innovation starts with listening, especially to the needs of the industry. What skills do engineering graduates need to succeed? Afeka's response is structured, forward-thinking model that identifies and builds both technical and personal competencies and values that make up the ideal Afeka graduate, or in other words, the graduate profile.
We can find among them also skills like basic math and physics and engineering knowledge, programming, but also personal skills like critical thinking, independent learning, oral and writing presentation, communications, and teamwork.
Afeka then defined 3 levels for each skill, basic, intermediate, and advanced, and set a clear goal to integrate and develop these skills throughout every course, across all 3 or 4 years of a student's academic journey. Students also work on long-term collaborative projects that mirror real-world processes.
One of the very creative examples is what we call rolling projects, in which a group of students from the software engineering continue works of other students. So they first need to understand what the previous group is doing, and then they must plan their own project very, very precisely with plans and requirements so that the group that come after them will know what to do next. So it's very creative, and that's what's happened really in the industry.
Change is not easy, especially in academia. But Afeka supports faculty through open dialogue, training, and annual innovation calls.
I think we made the learning more enjoyable, which is good for everyone. And from the feedback of our graduates, they feel that they're better prepared for the industry. And according to their success and advance in work, we believe that it's true, and we're very proud of them.
Last week, ILTV and Afeka Academic College of Engineering premiered Breaking the Code, a special webinar exploring the education skills and industry connections shaping tomorrow's innovators. Scan the QR code to watch. And let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see rainy showers alongside steady temperatures with highs of about 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Shosh Bedrosian. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.